Hello, I'm Laura Furiosi, divorced mother of 3, and I'm here with my mother, Lynette Galvin, with 35 years' experience in family law. You're listening to the Divorce Course podcast. Through our candid discussions, we hope to help you through your divorce or de facto separation. We will be answering the most commonly asked questions and covering the stages and steps that you will face on your way to freedom. Today's episode is a Pep Talk episode because Mum and I have noticed recently that there are some people out there with lawyers who are not getting what they want. And the reason they're not getting what they want is because they're not asking. So today's episode is called Just Ask. And we're going to go into the reasons why you should just ask and what might be holding you back. Mum, you've seen this a lot, haven't you? With younger lawyers or inexperienced lawyers or lawyers who want to protect their win
reputation
rate.
Or maybe lawyers who are a bit nervous about going to court. I forgot to say hello to you.
Oh, hello, Mum.
Hello, listeners.
How are you?
Yes, I'm well, thanks.
So, Mum, this is a pep talk, but it's also a strategy because I feel like, as we've talked about, I remember going into the lawyer's office like a deer in the headlights, just going, okay, these people are the professionals. They'll know exactly what to do. They're going to do exactly what's best for me. And when I got out of there, I just assumed that's what they were doing. And everyone assumes that, but sometimes maybe they are doing what's the easiest.
Maybe. I mean, and don't forget, they may be experts in law, and maybe if you do our course, you're kind of a mini expert, but you are the absolute expert on your life and your children and on your property, you know.
And your ex.
And your ex. So you've got the driver's seat. And so their job, lawyers' jobs, is to make recommendations, give you options, make recommendations, and to follow your instructions. And unless your instructions are contrary to the principles of the court, which means, attempting mediation and so forth. So I think that some lawyers cave in too easily, and I think they just need to ask.
Is it like a cookie cutter approach? They just go, all right, this is the steps we take. This is our generic orders. This is what we ask for. And they just kind of cookie cutter and you just kind of get put through the conveyor belt and you come out with orders that look like everybody else's? Is that what
it might be that, or that they are very focused on settling.
Yeah.
And to be fair to every lawyer here, that the court requires us to do that. And the central practice direction will be sent to each party, usually in these early stages of the proceedings. But if you don't ask, you can't get.
Yeah.
And I remember listening to a judge talking many years ago. He'd just come back from Canada where spousal maintenance claims were a big part of their work. So spousal maintenance applies for de facto and married couples. It can apply, for de facto.
So spousal maintenance is like alimony, where your
the American
ex pays
alimony.
you every week or every month
to keep you going.
To keep you living. Yeah.
That's right. Or that you pay some to your ex to keep them going.
Yeah.
And Canada was shocked at how few spousal maintenance orders had been made in our country. And the judge said, we looked at it and we realised none of you guys, he sweeps his hand across all the lawyers and barristers in the room, are asking for spousal maintenance. We, as judges, can't sort of come down from on high and go, well, we'll make an order for spousal maintenance too because this woman or man is clearly in need of it and this other woman can pay.
Yeah.
He said, we're not able to make orders unless you ask, and you guys haven't asked. And so I've always remembered that the law is there. You read the law, it talks about spousal maintenance, for instance, or sole parental responsibility. So it's a thing, but if your case fits in that box, then you should ask your lawyer or just ask the court to make the orders you want.
So if you're struggling with something and your life would be made a million times, say you're trying to get the house ready for sale, and you've got to do maintenance, you've got to fix the gutter, you've got to get the floors polished, you've got to pay someone to paint some wall, and that's going to cost money and you don't have that money. If you could ask the court for it.
Yeah, to give it to you out of your money that you've already got.
Then that would make your life a bit easier.
That's right. Yeah.
So why is it that people aren't asking? Is it because they don't know that they can ask for it, or is it because they're asking and their lawyers are saying no?
Could be that. And I mean, your lawyer knows your case. I don't know your case.
Yeah.
But I think it's an attitude. I think that this is very broad scope. But
in other words, Mum's saying, I'm going to get in trouble for saying this. But this is Mum's opinion.
Just talking to people over the years, I don't think our women, Australian women, are asking for spousal maintenance because it doesn't really cross lost their minds.
Right.
Child support does, and child support came in 1989. And until then, $20, $25 a week was all people got. But now we all know that child support should be a reasonable payment to support the children. We're a long way off recognising that spousal maintenance is another way of supporting you. Oh, FYI, people often forget you can register your spousal maintenance at orders. Say the court orders that your husband or wife pays you $200 a week. You can register that with the child support agency and they can collect it when they collect the child support if you need to.
There you go. That's good to know.
Yes, it's something we often forget, I think.
So you're saying you think that people aren't thinking about to ask for it. But what about the other things like
selling the house?
Or saying, look, I think my ex is too dangerous to have the kids around.
Yeah.
And I don't think the kids should be seeing him at all unless it's supervised.
Yes.
Is that something that people aren't asking? Or is it lawyers are saying?
I think they ask their lawyers and their lawyers say, oh, no, you won't get that. What I worry about is lawyers prejudging a case. You will hardly ever get costs orders against a person if it's about children's matters, unless it was wildly fanciful, like not seeing the other parent for a year. Usually children's matters, you're supposed to put the kids' wishes or the kids' interests, best interests, right front and centre. And so the court has an attitude that if you ask for these things, it's because you genuinely believe it's better for the child and you're entitled to do that. And if your lawyer says to you, you won't get that, or this judge never does sole parental responsibility or any of that, they're not the judge. They're not judges and they may be wrong. If you never ask, a bit like spousal maintenance with that judge talking about it, no one ever gets sole custody, for instance. Maybe it's because people don't ask, you know.
So have there been any, apart from the Canadian, Australian, has there been any studies on that sort of information?
No, there's not, because we analyse families within an inch of their lives. But to my knowledge, and if anyone knows of one, could you let me know? Of my knowledge, no one has dug into what advice the solicitors are giving to their clients. And let's face it, it's all confidential anyway.
Yeah.
And it might only be oral. It could be in writing. But yes, so I think that's why I love it when people listen to us or know the course. I think that they can then challenge their lawyer and go, well, actually, I think I fit all of those categories.
Well, we had that amazing story written into us the other day by one of our lovely listeners who said, and I'm going to change the dates and the ages and everything. It's all different. And they said, their lawyer said, you've got no hope in heck of getting supervised access and you having full custody of this 7-year-old child. Not going to happen. And she said, I've been listening to the podcast and I think we should try. And she pushed for it and she got it.
Yeah.
And if she'd just gone then and there, okay, and agreed, a
little girl or a little child.
And like you're saying, if you ask, then there's a chance you could get it. And if you don't ask,
there's no chance. And the lawyer who was helping this person, thankfully, took her instructions and ran with it. Now they will know that that's possible, and hopefully bad advice won't be given to subsequent clients. So we're going to change things, I think.
So what should our listeners do if they get a lawyer and their lawyer says, no, you can't ask for that, this judge never does that, or no, you can't because the likelihood is nil?
If the likelihood was nil, I think I'd check that, because you've got to, your lawyer is the expert in your case. So, you've got to weigh it up. If they're adamant that it's nil, and maybe get a second opinion.
Yeah. Well, you can get a second opinion, can't you?
You're entitled to ring up another lawyer and ask them questions. And you say to the lawyer, I'm already instructing a solicitor and I just want a second opinion and I instruct you to not tell my solicitor. You're entitled to do that.
Okay.
And so that's not going to damage your relationship with your lawyer and it might give you some peace of mind.
So mentally, if you're listening today, I want you to remind yourself, because I know I come from a place of people pleasing, and I'm working so hard on that. And as I'm getting older and caring less about what people think, I'm getting better at that. But in those moments when you're looking up with big, bright, shiny eyes to the superhero lawyer who's going to save your day, you want to take on board everything they say and you want to do exactly what they say. But then there may be a conflict in the back of your mind and you might be a people pleaser and you want to just do what they say. But I want you to remember that once court is over, that lawyer flies away with their superhero cape, if they're good, and you never see them again. But you then have to live with those 10 pages of orders that you get through court or through mediation or through negotiations, and you're stuck with them.
Yes.
And that lawyer's gone, and you're stuck with it. And
that's right. And there's a lot of pressure on people. I'll quickly just read these through and sign them. Like, you must never do that.
Because how old are your kids? You've got to think about that. How long is this order going to last? How many years have you got of co-parenting, or how many years of money have you got, life have you got left to use this money? And then, your lawyer, yes, may want you to settle and negotiate, but you've got to remember, yes, and it is the best idea to get it organised and sorted as soon as possible, but it's your life. And are you in 5 years when you're struggling to follow these orders or live with the money that you've agreed to, are you going to look back and go, I really wish I'd spoken up. Yeah. I really wish I'd said something else. And that's what you've got to remind yourself now, because a lot of people write in and say, I'm just ready to give up. I want to throw in the towel, and we've got an episode for that, and I'll put that in the show notes. If you go to the divorcecourspodcast.com.au, jump in our blog and find our show notes. I might just change it to show notes, called show notes. Find this episode and you'll be able to find the links to those other episodes that'll help you. But it's a mind reframe, because people are desperate to just get out of the situation.
Yes. And you owe it to your future self.
Yes.
To do it properly.
Is it long-term pain for short-term gain, or short-term pain for long-term gain?
Yeah, and I'm always reluctant. I was always reluctant when a client goes, oh, that's it, I don't care, I'll just take whatever. And I go, No.
And it's easy for us to say because we're not in that situation now.
But we both were.
But I would have, you're desperate. You're just like, okay, whatever, let's do whatever. So, Mum, on top of standing up to your ex and on top of asking for what's fair, you then may have to be a little bit more pushy with your lawyer.
Maybe, and maybe they aren't the lawyer for you if you're convinced that your scenario is right and you've had a second opinion and that seems to say that you are right and your lawyer isn't giving you a legal reason, but just, this judge never does that, or, so few percentages of people ever get that. Those aren't legal reasons. I actually heard a judge once say that the incident and I think we need to do a trigger warning, but the incidence of child sexual abuse was so low, they didn't think that was happening in this case. Low doesn't mean never, and you need to remember that when you talk to your lawyer. So the lawyer's role.
And if that's triggered you, please call Lifeline 13 11 14, or you can also call 1-800-RESPECT, or you can go and speak to a psychologist and look on the 1-800-RESPECT website.
Okay. Yes. So sorry about bringing that up. So hardly ever doesn't mean never.
Yeah.
And if you're firm on that, you can either push for your lawyer to do it, and they might want you to sign an acknowledgement of their advice to the contrary. But if you're sure, you can do that. Alternatively, if your lawyer doesn't have it in them, you may need to go to someone else. Now, you don't want to get some sort of really aggressive lawyer who's going to beat up your molehill into an even bigger mountain.
Or a yes man.
There's the two differences. That's right. So there's got to be a balance. And I think what you were talking about, Laura, was trust, really.
Yeah.
You have to be able to trust the person who's helping you.
But I think one of the ways to double check is to educate yourself.
Yes.
Go and see for a second opinion. If you're stuck on a point, ring up for a second opinion, and just make sure that the decisions and actions you are taking is because that's what you want, not because what the lawyer thinks you want. And if you are going to go, like mediation same thing. You want to be talking about and trying to deal with the things that matter and asking for what you want, not what they think you want. Yeah. And the same goes for if you're going to go and spend thousands of dollars going through court, writing affidavits, going through the trial, etc. Why go through it if you're not going to try and get go for your shiny, best, brightest, what do you call it?
Your best, bright, shiny case.
Yeah.
And see, the thing is in those affidavits, Laura, is that sometimes
you're invited to our free webinar. Whether you're stuck at the beginning of deciding to divorce or you're struggling to find your way through the legal jargon and fear of the unknown of the legal process, we are here to empower you to take control. Join us to learn what steps you can take, followed by a live Q&A where you get Lynn, my amazing mum, and family law accredited specialist to answer your questions. All you have to do is go to www.thedivorcecourse.com.au and click on Reserve My Seat. We'll see you there. Hurry, spaces are limited, so don't miss out. Register today.
The thing is in those affidavits, Laura, is that sometimes things will get left out because you don't want to look bad. Your lawyer may say, oh, don't say that or don't put that in because you won't look good. But that's fine from a lawyer's point of view. But the application, not asking for the orders you seek just so the court doesn't think badly of you, is a bad idea. It completely defeats the purpose. Now, having said that, your lawyer who's saying, oh, that never happens, they may be right, but you're like taking that gamble because you want to find out. And look, it could have gone either way when you get to the trial, but at least then you know that according to the law, this is the best interest of your child or this is how the property settlement should be. Instead of caving in early and maybe the court would have made a different order.
At least you tried.
Yes, because you can't go back, see?
No. And look, everything we're saying is like a little bit of a pep talk. We're not giving you legal advice. It's obviously you need to check and reality check everything that you do with your lawyer or go and get a second opinion. This is just, we're not saying tell your lawyer to get stuffed and do what you think because that basically makes you self-repped and you go off on it. Like lawyers know stuff, but you have to check that they're not giving you the direction they want to take because it's the easier path or they've never seen anybody else achieve it or because it's your case.
Or the judge's reputation or they might be a bit scared of the judge maybe. Do you know, and lawyers know stuff, Laura, but they don't always know everything.
No.
Or they might forget it.
Yes.
So, you guys...
Well, we've been learning that. Our listeners have been writing in saying, my lawyer didn't know what a Calder Bank offer was or this, Well,
we walked out and I told my lawyer we needed to make an offer under 117C and they didn't know what that was. I had to send them the link. Oh, dear.
So, look, and look, we're not saying all lawyers are bad. We're just saying it's just and with these new laws coming in as well, it's going to be a whole new kettle of fish of education for everyone. But I just wanted a pep talk episode, Mum, for those people out there, like that lady that wrote in and said, I went for it and I got it.
Yes.
Even though my lawyers didn't want to.
Yes.
And, what's the point in buying a mediocre handbag? You might as well spend all the money and get the opportunity to get the best handbag you can get. Do you know what I mean? Like, your trial is going to suck, but why go through all the pain and all the work
and then wimp out
without asking what you want?
That's right. It's ridiculous to go to court and fight for what you don't really want.
Yes, so and I'm not saying
put it in your orders.
Don't settle.
No.
Like obviously compromise is involved, but if there is lots of family violence and you're incredibly worried about your children's safety, don't cave in because they said that they might say you don't get it if you really believe it.
Yeah.
Talk to
you're your kid's advocate.
Yeah.
And you're the advocate for your future self.
Yes.
And so it's kind of a little bit businesslike that you have to approach. I wish I knew how to take the emotion out of those things. Yeah. But there are things that will make you be lying in bed with your eyes open till 3:00 in the morning worrying about your case.
But fear holds you back. Like fear, the fear of the unknown and just fear in general. What if I fail? So, Mum, one of the biggest things people say, well, I don't want to try for it, my best, bright, shiny case, because what if I fail? What happens if they don't get what they want?
Well, you get something else.
Do you get punished?
You can get hit with a cost order. In other words, have to pay the other person's costs. Now, do we talk about Calder Bank offers and offers?
We've done an episode. I'll put that in this episode.
So if you've sent an offer to the other side and they don't accept it. And when you go to trial, the judge gives them exactly what you had in your offer or worse than you had in your offer, then they're at risk of paying your legal fees.
Okay.
And that goes for you as well.
So that's catch.
Your risk. The risk is having to pay the legal fees of the other person or some of the legal fees for being stubborn. That's why you can't ignore your lawyer's advice. You can get a second opinion and you can trust your gut. And find a lawyer that matches you.
That doesn't seem fair, though. If someone's got like 5 lawyers and they're a big Mr. Burns situation where they're like all, and then you're just sitting there going, oh, I should just give in because I don't want to pay their legal fees. Like it's unfortunate that
It's a thing, isn't it? Yes, it is. And I mean, when it comes to property, that's easy. You can assess your risk and costs and maybe accept less. When it comes to the kids, it's less common to get an order against you for costs.
Okay.
Because the court understands you have an arguable case. You've got genuine reasons to feel that this is appropriate for the kids and you've got a good reason to fight for the kids. You'll be hardly ever hit with costs, if ever, really.
Okay.
But property, it's a different thing because that's just a bidding game.
Right.
And you remember in property in the final orders that there's a range of orders that could be made and all of them will be right.
Mm-hmm.
So give or take probably 5 to 10%.
Mm-hmm.
You might get 3 judges, and I've seen this happen. We had 3 judges. We sent them, it was in a study, they sent each of them the same set of facts for arbitration.
Ooh.
And they each wrote an order and none of them was the same as the other because it isn't something that's ever going to be replaced by ChatGPT.
We hope.
The judges have different, they're only human, they have different leanings. So you might have gathered I'm kind of quite robust. If I was on the bench, I'd be quite robust.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to have you as a judge.
No. Really?
I don't know.
Yes.
I'd be scared of you.
Oh.
If you weren't my mum.
I made a submission once to a judge that as the independent children's lawyer, I'd requested a document, but whether or not I would ever get it, I wasn't sure. And the judge, who shall remain nameless, said, well, Mrs. Galvin, if you asked me to do something, I would do it. No, I'm a pussycat.
Yeah,
really.
no, but you don't take any crap.
No,
and I mean, and I think that helped me, and I think this is the pep talk that you gave me, and I'm not talking about my case, but what I'm saying is when I was going through this, you pulled me aside and you said, Laura, you need to be advocating for yourself and standing up for yourself, and you really helped give me a bit of a backbone, and I want to share that pep talk backbone with our listeners so they too can get a bit of that from you, because it did make a big difference in my ability to stand up and ask for what I wanted, as opposed to me just sitting back and taking whatever I was going to get. If you don't have a mum like mine, you can listen to this podcast, but you can also go and find a fierce friend. And we always talk about our fierce friends, not the pushovers, sister. Not the ones that feel the ones that go, oh, well, I can see both sides of the story, or I really liked your ex-husband, so I don't want to be involved. Go and find one who's fully on your side.
Not hating your ex, but loving you.
Yes, and understands where you're coming from and understands what it is that you want, and get them to give you the kick up the butt that you need in the middle of it when you run out of your own get up and go.
Yep, and you say lawyers know stuff. And particularly if they're prancing around as barristers in their robes, it's very intimidating.
Oh, it's very intimidating.
But really, I was a shop assistant in a grocery store.
Yeah.
And I sold records for a while. And I sold waterbeds while I was studying criminal law. I am the same human.
Yeah.
And I've been a teacher.
Yeah.
And so it's just the job I do. It's just the study I did. So all of those people, chances are they're no smarter than you, but they just chose a different career.
Yeah.
Okay? So don't be intimidated by them.
They're just people.
They are just people. They have to be a little bit harder.
Yeah.
Because day after day after day, especially in family law, they're dealing with broken hearts and broken dream. And if they get involved too emotionally, they wouldn't be able to do the job.
Yeah.
And so
I would not be able to do that job.
No. And like you get distressed just talking to people who need to buy the course. And I do too. I have to, when I talk to people, it doesn't completely go away,
No.
the feeling. And I remember people would come and see me when I was practicing and go, I feel so much better. And I'm thinking,
I feel
yes,
so much crapper.
because that's what I've got the whole responsibility now.
Yeah.
But that's what your lawyer should do for you.
Yeah.
That you should
Take
be able to
the load.
take instructions from it. Remember, you're giving instructions. So give them the instructions of what you want. Get them to reply in writing if they say you can't have it, and to say put some cases in as to why.
Yeah.
Maybe get a barrister's opinion, but you owe it to yourself not to too much wimp out.
Yeah, which is a big ask when you're going through that craziness.
Yeah, and I know people settle on matters for property for other than a fair go. They'll say, I don't want the uncertainty in court. I don't want the delay.
I don't want the drama.
I don't want the drama.
Costs.
I don't want to pay the costs for it. I'd rather just take this and move on. And often in mediation, you'll see people who didn't settle when they could have. They go to court and they get the same amount, but it might be a year later. And in that year, house prices have gone up and they've spent all this money. So it's a delicate balance.
Recently, we had International Women's Day and I was at an event and a lady was there were two ladies talking. We were raising money for women's legal services. And one of the ladies, she was a big business lady, and through her divorce, the business began to be fought over, and she had to choose between her business and fighting for her kids, and she cut her losses and walked from the big fight with her business. And she said that that's happening a lot. And so she says that women are walking away from businesses, and that's something we need to look at in the future. And the other lady, her story was horrific, but she got her car bashed in and she couldn't get a loan again to get another car. So she had to hire a car for 2 years. And there was all these things she was dealing with and fighting for her kids on top of trying to go for property. And in the end, she kind of gave up with the property. And that story seems to come out a lot with our members too. They cut their losses with property. They just don't want to do the fight. And I get that. But I do think it's setting women off on a financial back foot. A lot of older women and a lot of young young business women. So the pep talk is for those ladies as well.
Yeah.
Don't cut your losses on your property and walk away for the sake of your peace unless you've done the maths and looked at the future and felt what it's going to be like.
And do a pros and cons list.
Yeah.
Because that immediate pain, it's like when toddlers crying for something and the easiest things, just give it to them.
Yeah.
But what's that doing long term?
Yeah. So
you all make your own decisions.
Yes.
And I made a decision similar.
To cut your losses.
Yep. So and that was a very calculated decision and I've never regretted it.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
I've never regretted it.
But I just don't want people to, and because you could be pushed into going for it by your lawyers when you don't want to.
That's true. You've got to be strong. You're in the driver's seat.
Yeah. So you get what you ask for, I think, is a good reminder to anyone out there. You don't have to just sit down and be driven around by your lawyer or whoever's around. You can decide what it is you want and you can decide what you ask for and let the court decide.
Because you don't always get what you want, but you will never get...
I don't think anyone gets what they want, do they?
But sometimes they do.
Okay.
But you will never get what you don't ask for.
Yes.
And so if you're going to let that go, not push with it, you need to have...
Can you say that again, Mum? Everybody, if you're doing anything, stop, put your pens down or your broom down and listen to this. Say that again, Mum.
You don't always get what you want, what you ask for, but you will never get something you haven't asked for.
Right.
So
That's
you've got to do it.
You got to do it. And look, it's easy for us to sit back here and say, yeah, you got to do it. You got to push for it. So get somebody like Mum around you to give you that little bit of a push when you need it.
Yeah.
And if you feel that when you go into the room with your lawyer that because they're good at talking and they're good at negotiating, talk you around to what it is that they want to do.
Take your fierce friend.
Take your friend with you so that they can see and then help push you back into the direction that you wanted. Because look, they're good at talking.
Yep. And I think it's a good thing because they can reality check you as well if you get emotional and attached to something that really just isn't worth it, they can go, now come on.
Yeah.
You can get another one.
Yeah. But if you're suffering and you're running out of money, go and ask for that spousal support. Go and ask for the things that you
For
deserve.
interim property.
There's no harm in asking. And if they say no, they say no.
Yep,
right?
That's right.
But listen to that cost episode.
Yes. Be careful about
and
cost.
always check with your lawyer because this is just general education. And unfortunately, it's a pep talk and we can't solve your problems, but we can give you a little bit of a push today.
Yes.
Thank you, Mum.
No worries. Goodbye, everyone.
Good luck, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
If you found this podcast helpful, we'd love it if you could rate, review and subscribe. By doing so, you are spreading the word to help someone else just like you. Lynn would like to remind you that this podcast is general advice only and you should always get legal advice in relation to your particular situation. And remember that the Australian laws may have changed since recording.